Hey, so I wanted to do a quick little video talking about um, sculling, rowing, and splashing and missing water and that type of blade work issues, which some members of our club just are persistently struggling with, and they kind of slip back into it. They get better, but they never get kind of completely clear of it generally. Um, I was in a quad this morning, and I was in the stroke seat, and the two people in the middle of the boat were splashing the person in the bow, and the person in the bow was trying to give little tips and things, and the biggest one was rolling up early. So generally in the sculling stroke, this is the oar, right? So the oar is going to go into the water, through the water, out, feather, recovery, square, catch, drive, finish, tap down, feather, recovery, square. So the one thing that happens is, as people square, the bottom of the oar, especially with the modern hatchet blades, tends to tap the surface of the water and really throw water a long way. But if you square earlier, when you come to catch, the bottom of the blade is not swinging as fast, so it doesn't knock the water as far. So even if you hit the water a little bit at the catch, it doesn't tend to splash people in the boat unless you're also squaring at the same time. Some people call that flip catching, or where you come up to the catch and then you flip the square really suddenly right before you catch. If you can square, reach, drop, it also allows you to generally get more water than you can with a flip catch. And it allows more relaxation in the hands and shoulders and arms, because your square is taken care of, and then you can just reach and drop. It can be helpful, especially in sculling. Now you won't see this at elite levels generally, but sometimes you will a little bit, is to scrape the water a little bit for the first third of the recovery, and then start getting clear of the water and square, and then reach and catch. This gives you more relaxation to get a longer catch. And then, because you've reached a long way, you've got lots of water, you don't have to be in such a rush to apply power. If you come up and you catch, and you flip catch, then you've really got to hit it pretty hard, because you haven't reached that far, and a little more relaxation with an early square and a reach, and you can kind of, how to show this. So, hands on the oar. Hang on, here we go. So, go up to the recovery, square, reach, and there's a little kind of kick that happens, for me at least, where my thumb is pushing on the bottom of the oar handle, and my fingers are opening a little bit, and that's in the feather. And then when you get towards a little past halfway through the stroke, you just kind of close your hand, and then you reach and catch. And that earlier roll-up allows a bit more relaxation in the hand and arm and shoulder, which allows you to reach a little bit more. You're not going to smash people if you're already square. You might tap the water, and that feels uncomfortable. And I think that a lot of people get into a habit early in their sculling career where they don't want to be catching and chugging the instability and discomfort of catching in the water with a square blade. So they keep it flat, they keep it feathered as long as they can, and then they just kind of flip catch at the last minute. I think that rowing at really low rates, like if you're rowing at an 18 a lot, that really reinforces this tendency, because you're rowing really slow, you're maybe a little wobbly, and nobody can balance with their blades off the water in a single scull forever. So you've got a certain amount of time that you can balance before you need to be pulling on the water. And when your blades are in the water and you're pulling, you have stability and you have control of your balance. But as soon as you finish and the blades are out the water, you're really just balancing until you can get them in again, unless you're dragging on the water. So there's this strong tendency to kind of drag and pat and not be square and catching. Catching, like, it's not quite the right word, but you kind of like, it's easy to hit some water that way. So stay feathered as long as you can, and then flip catch at the last minute. It's kind of a common beginner tendency for kind of stability and security and stuff, but it's hard to get over when you get really ingrained in it. And I think that the best way to practice getting past it is early roll up, reach, square, drop your blades in. Because you've reached far, because your hands and arms and shoulders are relaxed and you're able to reach a little further, then you can let the blades settle for half a beat and then drive. And you'll have a cleaner drive, you'll have better grip on the water, a little more efficiency because you won't have sucked any air in with the blade, you won't have those bubbles that are messing up the fluid dynamics. And the water will be able to slice over the blade as the blade comes away from the boat, and that will give you the best lift, and is really what the blade was designed for. What's the other thing I wanted to mention? Yeah, so rowing at an 18, low stroke rates like that can cause people to feel unbalanced, and they're always trying to find that security of staying square as long as possible before they square and catch. So what I prefer is an easy swing at maybe a 26 or something that's comfortable, and it's quick enough that you don't have to maintain your stability just through balance for very long. I would say scrape the water if you need to for the first third of the recovery, then lift the blade, square, reach, catch. And you doing it at a slightly higher rate like that, it doesn't have to be very high, like aerobic threshold or anything, just a nice steady swing that is nice and stable and quick enough that you're getting that stability on every stroke and you're not balancing for too long. Balancing practice is great, but it's separate from squaring practice and blade work practice, I think. It needs to be separated. And imagine the stroke is drag, lift, square, reach, drop. Versus drag, get a little bit off, and then flip catch. You want to be lift, square, reach, drop. I think when you find it, you will find relaxation and satisfaction with the amount of water you're getting and the kind of the cleanliness of it. There's a lot of talk about backsplash or front splash, and then there's V-splash. These are things that you really get at more elite levels where the blade is coming in a lot faster, and maybe you get that some in club levels too, but there's a thing in rowing which is a difficulty in rowing as a sport in general, is that traditionally, before high-speed video and other gizmos, you really just had the coach's eyes. The people in the boat generally can't see their own blades at the catch, at least not very well. So the coach is trying to give tips that are like more backsplash or more front splash or whatever they're trying to tune the rowing of the rowers. But in general, when you're kind of self-coaching in a single or a double and you're trying to get a good catch, I think you should be aiming for dropping the blade in cleanly with as little splash as possible. So it should be drag, square, reach, and just imagine there's a slot that blade is going into, and you've got to get there. Kind of like just tossing something into a trash can, and it should just drop into the water and then you drive. Another thing that's related but common, but some people do one, some people do both, is rowing it in. So if you imagine there's kind of a box that the oar is operating in, going through the water, coming out, squaring, going back, square, drop, drive, tap down, feather, recovery, square, catch. So in that box, this top corner here, people often will row it in by they'll flip catch up into that top corner and then they'll row it down and in like that. So they miss this foot of water, let's say. Now some people will flip catch, splash, then go up into the corner and then come back down. They actually squared at the right time, but they splashed, rise, miss water. Instead of squaring a little higher and then coming down to the catch, they're going up to the corner and back down. So their catch is happening here instead of here. So if you can square a little earlier, reach and drop, you get the most water. There's a lot of emphasis made on length, getting enough length in the stroke. A lot of beginners don't get enough length. You can also get too much length. If you're reaching really far and you're over-compressed and you're in a kind of vulnerable, squashed position, you don't have any power in your trunk to really initiate a good stroke. So you don't want to get kind of compressed and unstable and kind of spread out like a pancake too far down at the catch. You want to keep your shoulders kind of stable. You want to get up against your thighs nice and tight. And then you want to drive, and you don't want to miss any water you want to get all the water you can, but don't sacrifice your stability and your strength and your comfort at the catch either. So there's a balance there. Hope that's helpful. All right, bye.